और उस वातावरण में जो पूरे विश्व को प्रभावित किया, जहां यात्रियों की संख्या एक नया इतिहास रचना शुरू हुई, उसमें भारत के हमारे एयरपोर्ट्स भी, कुछ एयरपोर्ट्स भी प्रभावित हुए। 6 दिसंबर को कंजेशन 2022, मतलब आज से करीब करीब 1 साल पूर्व, हमारे देश के दिल्ली के एयरपोर्ट, कुछ और मेट्रोज के एयरपोर्ट और कुछ दूसरे एयरपोर्ट्स में भी कंजेशन की स्थिति तैनात हुई। और उस वातावरण में मेरे सहभागी जनरल साहब, हम तत्कालीन सचिव, बीकैस के डीजी हसन साहब, हम सब दिल्ली के टर्मिनल पे पहुंचे थे 12 दिसंबर को, तो करीब करीब आज से ठीक 1 साल पूर्व। और जो स्थिति वहां उत्पन्न हुई थी, करीब करीब 3 घंटे की बैठक और मीटिंग हमने ली, पूरे फैसिलिटी का जायजा लिया, स्वतः दौरा किया, कौन से पॉइंट्स में विसंगतियां हैं, कहाँ कठिनाइयां हैं, उन सभी का पूर्ण रूप से स्वतः हमारी पूरी टीम ने जायजा लेकर 3.5 घंटे की बैठक वहां आयोजित की। मैं मानता हूं कि हमारे सिविल एविएशन के वैल्यू चेन में एक तरफ यात्री है जो यात्रा करने के लिए आशान्वित है, दूसरे तरफ सर्विस प्रोवाइडर है एयरलाइन, जो यात्री को अपने गंतव्य तक ले जाने के लिए, अपनी जिम्मेदारी निभाने के लिए आशान्वित है। कस्टमर और सर्विस प्रोवाइडर के बीच में फैसिलिटी होती है एयरपोर्ट की, और एयरपोर्ट की स्पष्ट जिम्मेदारी होती है कि इस पूरे वैल्यू चेन में कस्टमर को सुलभता के साथ, सुगमता के साथ और सुविधाजनक अपने एयरक्राफ्ट तक पहुंचाए। और कोई कारण नहीं हो सकता, ये स्पष्ट मैं कह दूं, देयर कैन बी नो रीजन फॉर एनी discomfort, lack of facility in the value chain between the desire of the customer to travel and the service provider, which is the airline, to provide that service on behalf of the intermediary. And the airport performs that role of the intermediary between the value chain of the customer and the service provider. Even more so, because apart from 1 or 2 exceptions, generally the airport is a monopoly, because you have a single point of call of entry in a particular city. And therefore it is incumbent on the service provider, i.e. the airport, to be able to provide that facility. What we found on that day, and for me it was a straightforward operations exercise. There is an input in terms of the passengers who arrive curbside at an airport. There is an output in terms of how many passengers board planes. In the middle of that input and output is a process. That process has 5 to 6 touch points. The first touch point is when the passenger arrives curbside at an airport. The second touch point is the entry gate inside the airport. The third touch point is when the passenger goes for check-in into the airport. The fourth touch point is the baggage drop. The fifth touch point is the PSC, the security check process of a passenger. And the sixth and last checkpoint is your boarding gate. Now, it's a very simple algorithm of trying to put in place, in terms of the number of passengers coming in, the capacity at each one of these checkpoints, so that the latency and delay at each one of these checkpoints is the shortest possible. And that must flow through the system. On the other hand, it is also important to manage the bell curve position of an airport capability of ATMs, air traffic movements per hour. Because that too, there are two determining factors in terms of the amount of throughput at an airport. One is the process of the 6 touch points in terms of the capacity you put in place. The second is the number of arrivals and departures you have per hour. One is an external push into the system. The other is the internal process. Abhi ye chodo, baith jao. The other is the internal process in terms of the capacity that you put in place. So what we did after this meeting of 3.5 hours at Delhi Airport is we decided to take the 6 metros in phase 1 across our country and look at the capacity creation across these 6 airports. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's not a cookie-cutter approach, because each airport has its own issues. And in the second phase, in addition to the 6 metro city airports, we took 10 additional airports that experience congestion. And those very clearly were Bhubaneswar, Chandigarh, Goa, Patna, Jaipur, Guwahati, Lucknow, Ahmedabad, Trivandrum, and Kochi. So 16 airports in total were taken on board on the 12th of December. And we started working at what the causes for congestion were. We started working on a schematic as to what the parameters should be for each touch point. And post our initial exercise, we had a meeting with the Home Minister, and along with him, we decided that we must have international benchmarks that are put in place in terms of capacity at each one of these touch points. 3 or 4 very clear causes came out in terms of what the reasons were for this. The first was the issue of lack of sufficient airport infrastructure. Second, inadequate X-ray screening machines, or as we know in aviation parlance, XBIS machines and ATRS machines. Third, inordinate bunching of flights during peak hours, creating that peak hour congestion, which is beyond the capacity of the airport. Fourth, inadequate amount of manpower with regard to security as well as immigration. So what we did as a first step is to make sure that we facilitate every process along the step. So if you remember very clearly, in late December itself, there is almost like a Naka before the Delhi airport. We placed video screens there in terms of the wait time at each departure gate. We made sure we had usherers at each departure gate to make sure that passengers move from a heavily congested departure gate to one that was not. Video screens were put in place to monitor that. Radio walkie-talkies were given to usherers. We increased the number of departure gates. We also increased the number of passenger check-in gates. We also made sure that we increased the number of ATRS and XBIS machines. Some airports complained about the lack of space within their airports. And so we personally visited those airports where there were VIP lounges or retail and commercial spaces which needn't be there, because the priority of an airport is to serve the customer. We made sure we broke down VIP lounges. We removed retail spaces, and a case in point for you is Delhi Airport, where after the removal of the VIP lounge, 5 X-ray machines were placed in that particular area, which eased congestion tremendously. And therefore, through all of these processes and the use of DigiYatra, we brought in place DigiYatra at 5 airports initially, all metro airports apart from Chennai. We then increased it by another 8. Today, DigiYatra is working across 13 airports in India. Those 13 airports cater to almost about 85% of our domestic passenger traffic. We've had 35 million downloads of DigiYatra app. 91 lakh times the DigiYatra app has been used by passengers to either arrive at particular airports and board planes. In the next phase, which is in calendar year 2024, we are going to take up first 14 more airports that we are adding on to DigiYatra. And in the second phase, 11 more airports, so a total of 25 more airports in calendar year 2024. So from our current 13, that number will go up to 38 by the end of 2024. And against 85% of passengers who will be covered under DigiYatra in the 13 airports, now close to 96% of our passengers will be covered when we cover 38 airports through DigiYatra. In addition to this, the 4th runway has been commissioned in Delhi. The Eastern Cross Taxiway has been commissioned, which has also led to a cut in taxiing time from close to 21 minutes down to almost 7 minutes for aircrafts. The new T1 terminal building will be commissioned shortly in Delhi. In Bangalore, the new T2 terminal building for domestic and international operations has been commissioned in Bangalore. We moved domestic and international operations to the new T2 terminal. The expanded terminal building at Hyderabad is on its way to be inaugurated. In Mumbai, because there's a paucity of space, we function at roughly 50 million passengers per annum in Mumbai. The capacity has been reached, but we have restructured the pre-embarkation security check area. In Mumbai, we've taken permission from the Maharashtra government and created a lift facility to take passengers up and created a new PSC area. We've added 3 more security lanes. There's a new terminal building that will be commissioned in Lucknow in the next 3 to 4 months, which will increase capacity there. And similarly, new terminal buildings in Guwahati and Patna as well. The 2 big airports that are going to come online in this calendar year, next calendar year, in October and November will be Navi Mumbai and Jewar, which will also increase capacity tremendously. And finally, before we go into the presentation, our increase on CISF, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank personally and on behalf of my ministry, thank the Home Minister and the Home Ministry. CISF personnel have been increased by almost 21% in the last 8 to 10 months. 4,246 personnel have been added. Initial strength was 20,487. It is now 24,733. They have all been deployed at these airports. And similarly, on the immigration side, strength has been increased by over 1,000, which is almost over a 200% increase from the past year. Mind you, all of these processes take time because both CISF and BOI लोगों का प्रशिक्षण होना होता है. प्रशिक्षण के बाद उनको ऑन ड्यूटी 3 महीने के लिए टेम्पररी रूप से रखी जाती है और फिर उनका डिप्लॉयमेंट होता है. All of this has been done in the last 12 months. So I'd now like to quickly take you through a couple of slides in terms of what we have achieved, and then all of this will be given to you as a handout at the end of this briefing. So if we can start the presentation. So as I mentioned to you, we noticed a lot of requirements that need to be made with regard to designing a tool to make sure that we achieve facilitation of passengers across every airport. That could be done systemically by an airport itself, but we assigned that responsibility to BCAS as well, to be able to come up with metrics that will be able to define the capability at every one of those 6 touch points that I talked about. And mainly those are the departure entry gates, the check-in, the security check-in, immigration and emigration, all 6 of those. What the historic position was and where we need to evolve to. And through that metrics that have been evolved jointly by DGCA and CISF and BOI under the auspices of the Home Ministry and the Civil Aviation Ministry, we have worked with the airports to improve the positions, which we will share with you during this presentation. These are the international metrics and the domestic metrics that we have evolved. The processing standard, for example, at the departure entry gate should be 20 seconds conventionally for a conventional passenger and 7 seconds for a Digi Yatra passenger. The check-in should be 120 seconds on domestic, international 300 seconds. The security checkpoints, they have their उनके अपने मानक हैं 180 से 160 प्रोसेसिंग स्टैंडर्ड और कन्वेंशनल XBIS जो ATRS मशीन ना हो, ऑटोमेटिक ट्रे रिट्रीवल सिस्टम ना हो, वहाँ करीब 135 से 105 ये मानक हमने रखा है. इमिग्रेशन और एमिग्रेशन के लिए भी मानक हमने बना के रखा था. और इसी के साथ क्यूइंग स्पेस के लिए भी, क्योंकि जब लाइन लगती है तो उस क्यूइंग स्पेस के लिए भी कितने स्क्वायर मीटर पर पैसेंजर रखी जानी चाहिए, उसका भी मानक डोमेस्टिक इंटीग्रेटेड चेक इन के लिए 1.8 स्क्वायर मीटर्स पर पैसेंजर का मानक हमने बना के रखा है. सिक्योरिटी चेक पॉइंट के लिए 1.2 स्क्वायर मीटर्स पर पर्सन, और वैसे ही इमिग्रेशन और एमिग्रेशन के लिए भी मानक हमने रखा गया. 5 हमने नए रूल बनाए और ये हर एक एयरपोर्ट पर लागू होगा. पहला रूल कि बिजनेस और कमर्शियल जगह के लिए स्पेस एलोकेट होगा केवल और केवल जब पर्याप्त मात्रा में जगह यात्रियों के लिए एलोकेटेड की जाएगी. नंबर 1. नंबर 2, कोई भी अतिरिक्त जगह अगर किसी एयरपोर्ट को चाहिए, कमर्शियल या रिटेल के लिए, वो आने वाले अनुमान कि कितने पैसेंजर की बढ़ोतरी होगी उस एयरपोर्ट में, उसी के बाद उसकी स्वीकृति उस एयरपोर्ट को दी जाएगी. जो भी जगह अनुमानित भविष्य की ट्रैफिक के लिए हमने रेखांकित किया है, वो किसी और चीज़ के लिए इस्तेमाल उस एयरपोर्ट में नहीं किया जाएगा. ये तीसरा रूल हमने रखा है. चौथा रूल हमारे इवैक्यूएशन रूट्स के लिए, सर्कुलेशन कॉरिडोर्स के लिए पर्याप्त जगह होनी चाहिए. और 5वां रूल कि जो कमर्शियल एक्टिविटीज़ हैं वो यात्री के ऑन द वे होना चाहिए, इन द वे नहीं, कि यात्री को सर्प की तरह घूम घुमा के अपने डिपार्चर गेट में पहुंचाने की कठिनाई नहीं होनी चाहिए. ऑन द वे होना चाहिए यात्री के लिए, जो भी आप दुकान या कुछ भी बनाना चाहते हो, इन द वे नहीं. तो इन 5 रूल्स के आधार पर हमने नियम नए बनाए हैं. ये हमारी की फाइंडिंग्स थी, जिसके बारे में मैंने ऑलरेडी आपको सूचना दे दी है. और ये की फाइंडिंग्स के आधार पर दोनों एयर ट्रैफिक मूवमेंट्स का जो बेल कर्व है उसे हमें फ्लैटन करना होगा और ब्रॉडन करना होगा. नॉन पीक आवर्स में भी फ्लाइट्स को हमें मूव करनी होगी. जब तक हम लोग फुल कैपेसिटी प्रोसेसिंग की उस एयरपोर्ट में स्थापित न कर पाएं। एक बार जब फुल प्रोसेसिंग कैपेसिटी एयरपोर्ट में स्थापित हो जाएगा, उसके बाद आपके एयर ट्रैफिक मूवमेंट्स पीक आवर्स में आप जरूर बढ़ा सकते हो, और उसका एक उदाहरण भी हम आपको यहाँ दे देंगे। उसी के साथ सारा फैसिलिटीज़ में भी बढ़ोतरी होनी चाहिए। अब ये पहला उदाहरण है आपके लिए, डिपार्चर एंट्री गेट्स की क्या पोजीशन है। पिछले एक वर्ष में in the joint venture airports there has been an increase of 54% in departure entry gates. Case in points for you, in Bangalore 156% increase from 18 departure gates to 46, in Delhi from 31 departure entry gates to 66, Guwahati 5 to 10, and so on and so forth, ranging from 156% to 7% increase, an average of 54%. Similarly, for Airports Authority of India, from 63, the number of gates have been increased to 81, an increase of 30%, 75% in Chandigarh and Chennai, 40% in Patna. The second point of contact is your check-in counters. For the check-in counters in the JV airports, there has been increase of 22%. Bangalore Bangalore increase of almost 88% from 102 to 192. Jaipur, Lucknow and Guwahati almost about 50%. Delhi 31%, 168 to 220. And similarly for Airports Authority of India airports, Chennai an increase of 78%, Bhubaneswar 39%, and an average of 28%. On the joint venture airports, 200 check-in counters have been increased. On the AI airports, almost close to about 117 check-in counters have been increased. The third point of contact is the XBIS/ATRS machines that we go through in security. Also, please keep in mind that there is a difference between the summer schedule and the winter schedule. When you and I travel in the summer, we are wearing a kurta pajama or a pant shirt. We have a handbag in our hand. But the same person, when we travel in the winter, in addition to our kurta pajama and our pant shirt or our handbag, we also have a jacket and we also have an overcoat. So where a passenger may need only 1 or 2 trays during summer, they will need an additional tray during winter to put their heavy coats. So to keep that in mind as well, we have increased our XBIS machines by almost 33% in joint venture airports. Bengaluru has gone from 23 to 40. 17 machines have been increased in Bengaluru alone. Guwahati 8 to 13. Delhi, as I mentioned, 50 to 66. Let me give you an example of T3. When I went on the 12th of December, we had only 12 XBIS ATRS machines in T3 in Delhi. Within 2 months in Delhi, we increased that number to 23. They were increased by almost 10 machines in a space of a month and a half. 5 of those machines were fitted into the VIP lounge, which was broken down. And so therefore, you've got an average of between 74% to 25% increase in the JV airports. Similarly, in Airports Authority of India, from 59, the machines have gone up to 88, an increase of 50%. Chandigarh, for example, has gone up by 125%. Chennai from 13 to 24, which is close to about 88%. The next point is the international traffic, and here the Bureau of Immigration counters. So we've increased the number of counters as well, in addition to increasing the manpower at these airports. The joint venture airports, the increase has been almost about 16%. Guwahati 91%, Bengaluru, Lucknow and Ahmedabad almost close to 50%. And similarly in Airports Authority of India, the increase has been 53%. Kolkata from 42 to 92, an increase of 120%. Chennai 55 to 102, an increase of 85%. Now, if we look at the manpower deployment, and for this, as I mentioned, I must thank the Home Ministry and in particular the Home Minister who issued orders immediately and with his alacrity, we've been able to increase our manpower potential at our 16 airports. Joint venture airports have gone up by 19%, from 16,572 to 19,760, almost an increase of 3,000 personnel deployed today. Delhi Airport has gone up from 4775 to 6140, Bengaluru 2558 to 3549, an increase of 40%. Airports Authority of India have also increased their manpower of CISF personnel by 1,000, an increase of almost 27%, 74% in Chandigarh and 30% in Chennai, Kolkata and Patna. So in summary for you, the capacity enhancement on departure entry lanes has been 46%, check-in counters 24%, ATRS and XBIS machines for security check by almost 37%, CISF workforce, as I mentioned, almost by over 4,000, and similarly our BOI counters have already also gone up by almost 200, and our BOI personnel by about 1,500. This chart shows you the evolution of our deployment of XBIS machines across these 16 airports. 2019 to 21 was understandably a very flat period because of COVID. 22 was when congestion hit India. Our pre-COVID high was 4,19,000 passengers per day. April, May of 23, we hit 4,50,000, and 25th of November of this year, we've hit 4,67%. In the projection that BCAS had made of passenger traffic, winter schedule to winter schedule, we had put in a projection of a 15% increase for passenger traffic, and all these numbers for you at each one of these checkpoints are derivatives of that 15% assumption of increase in traffic. So with the 15% assumption in increase in traffic, how many more entry gates do you need? How many more check-in counters do you need? How many more ATRS machines do you need? How many more departure gates do you need? And based on that, this exercise has been conducted. We have monitored this exercise on a weekly basis, and therefore through this slide you see the security checkpoints have increased by almost 43%, from 234 in 22 to close to 321 in 23. I'd also like to mention here that this is an exercise that we monitor on our dashboard every Monday across these 16 airports. The second point I'd like to make is also, no longer is this a static exercise. This is a dynamic exercise. And therefore, from winter schedule 22 to 23, there is a 15% assumption of growth, which actually has come true, because in winter 22, the numbers were more like 4,10,000. We are now working at 4,67,000, which is actually a 15% increase. We also have a similar assumption for summer schedule 22 to summer schedule 23. And that will be a dynamic ongoing exercise for all times to come, conducted by BCAS, monitored by BCAS, and monitored by the Ministry of Civil Aviation from a dashboard perspective on a weekly basis. Now, just to give you a quick idea on airport by airport, when we look at Delhi, the increase has been 113% on the number of entry lanes. Your XBIS machines, as I mentioned, have gone up by 32%. Your CISF personnel, an increase of 30%. And if you look at the bunching status of flights, prior to that, Digi Yatra, which was not in place or had just started in December, because we inaugurated it on the 15th of August last year, the adoption rate was only 0.7%. It is now a healthy 28%. So the status as of now is roughly about 18,000 passengers per day or thereabout. I told you about the bunching status of flights. There were 85 air traffic movements that were scheduled as of 12th December. This was creating a tremendous amount of congestion. We reduced that immediately to 76. We capped it at 76 so as to enable a facilitatory environment for all our passengers. Once the infrastructure has been put in place, the status now, we have reverted back to no capping, because now we have the infrastructure available within the airport to be able to process 467,000 passengers, a portion of which go through Delhi Airport. Similar numbers for you for Mumbai. The Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Terminal. Again, there, as you can see, we've now brought DigiYatra in place. There's been an adoption rate because it was launched only in this August. So it's only been a couple of months, but we are monitoring the adoption rate of DigiYatra also on the dashboard, and we've given targets to every airport on a monthly basis that they need to achieve to bring about awareness and make sure passengers use DigiYatra to make their travel much more facilitatory. Here again you can see we capped the ATMs down from 25 to 20 to control the congestion. Once the infrastructure is in place, we've removed the capping here as well. Similar situation in Bengaluru, where we have increased by 156% the entry checkpoints. XBIS machines have gone from 23 to 40. DigiYatra is in place, 37% adoption. And here again, we capped the ATM only by 1, but we certainly did so, and now we are back to a no capping position. Hyderabad, a similar case for you. Again, there was not much congestion in Hyderabad, but in any case, we've got DigiYatra in place and increased the number of entry points. Kolkata, again, 119% increase in immigration desks, 28% increase in CISF personnel. And I'm not going to get into the details of every airport, but I've given you a vignette of what these 16 airports hold for you. Each one of these sheets will be given to you along with the presentation to take back with you at the end of this press conference. Just to give you an idea of how things have changed, we start with Delhi Airport. This was the reserve lounge that had been put in place, which was broken down. And now you have 5 XBIS machines that are placed there to facilitate passengers as opposed to a reserve lounge. Similarly, for a check-in counter, security check-in counter, this area had been walled up. We broke this wall down, and now you've got a zone 0 that has been created, because we started from zone 1 on security checkpoints, but now there's a new zone, which is zone 0, which has been created to facilitate passengers in peak periods. We had an exchange bureau here. We've removed that to facilitate check-in of passengers, so that's a before and after position. Similarly, retail areas and departure hall areas have been removed. Shops were required to increase footfall and traffic movement have been shifted or removed to provide that facilitation. Here's another example for you. The international security hold area, this area which was used for their office work has been compressed and compacted to provide more area for people to move around. Similar exercise in Mumbai, shops that were in the way as opposed to on the way have been removed to provide area for passengers in peak hours to check in and go through security. Jaipur Airport, similar curbside extensions for passengers to come in and check in. This is an interesting, we had a terminal manager's office blocking an entry gate. We removed that, and now you've got a new entry gate in Jaipur that has been created there. Similar examples for you in Guwahati, where retail has been removed. And the impact is there for us to see, touch wood. This year, even though there has been an increase of close to about over 15% in passenger traffic, a new record 75-year high of 467,000 passengers per day, there are no major reports of congestion because of all the steps that we have taken over the last 12 months, which have been detailed out for you in this presentation. Suffice to say that our work never ends. BCAS is now working on the next winter schedule and the next summer schedule, and looking at infrastructure rollout at these airports based on those projections stroke assumptions that we have taken into account to build adequate capability for passengers going forward. Thank you very much. Any questions that you may have, more than happy to answer you.
Please use the placards. Yes, left, first one.
So I have two questions. One for Mr. Hassan. What is the deadline for CTX installation and body scanners at airports? Because that was December 31. Has that been extended? And if yes, to what date? And secondly, sir, my question to the Honorable Minister. You've adopted the digital path in a big way. Digiyatra has been a huge help. What about the pilot project for digital immigration? When is that going to start? Which all airports? I was told Delhi, Bangalore, they're going to have a pilot project for immigration, biometrics for immigration. So grateful for these two answers, please. Thank you.
You want to go first?
The deadline for the full body scanner across all airports having more than 10 million passenger traffic was 31st of December this year, and also for CTX machines across all airports with 5 million passengers and above was also 31st. However, there have been certain provisioning issues and though we've made the specs, etc., but it is an international contract, and there are provisioning issues. We expect the first XBIX machines and CTX to come in the month of May in India across some airports. So we are extending the dates suitably. We are still in discussion with the airport operators. They have been told that we have on a monthly basis, we are discussing the scheduling of these machines in various airports. So rather than giving a single order saying putting cutoffs, we will do it airport wise. But as I said, the first machines in India, that's the good news, should come by May 24. Delhi to start with. Yes.
So on your question with regard to immigration and using biometrics, that as you are well aware, we have started the data collection at the international airports. Once the fundamental infrastructure as well as the software is in place, we will start rolling that out. But at this point of time, our concentration is much more on domestic in terms of enabling these 38 airports with regard to Digiyatra. Once that exercise is completed, in parallel, we will also look at this, but it is WIP, work in progress at this point of time.
100.
सिविल एविएशन की एक ट्रैफिक मॉनिटरिंग यूनिट भी है जो 60 रूट्स पे रैंडम बेसिस पे प्राइस कैपिंग वगैरह देखती रहती है. आप लगातार ये बताते रहें जितना आप
प्राइस कैपिंग नहीं, प्राइस मॉनिटरिंग.
राइट सर. तो मेरा सवाल इस चीज़ को लेकर के है कि इसका एग्जैक्टली प्रोसेस क्या है. सवाल इसलिए उठता है क्योंकि रिसेंटली हमने देखा जब इंडिया और ऑस्ट्रेलिया का फाइनल मैच था, उस टाइम पे एक्सॉर्बिटेंट प्राइसेस चार्ज किए जा रहे थे एयरलाइंस के थ्रू. तो क्या लास्ट मोमेंट पे कोई कंट्रोल नहीं होता या किस तरीके से प्रोसेस होता है? एक बार जब आप देख लेते हैं कि बहुत ज़्यादा रूट्स एक्सॉर्बिटेंट है, तो उस केस में क्या होता है? फिर एयरलाइंस को क्या कहा जाता है?
तो एक तो पहले मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन कर लूँ कि हमारा नागर विमानन क्षेत्र की रूपरेखा क्या है, और ये केवल भारत की रूपरेखा नहीं है, लेकिन ये विश्व भर की रूपरेखा है. हमारा ये क्षेत्र एक सीजनल क्षेत्र होता है, जहाँ एक ही वर्ष में आपके 2 लो सीज़न होते हैं और 2 हाई सीज़न होते हैं. दशहरा के शुरुआत से अक्टूबर में आपका हाई सीज़न शुरू हो जाता है जनवरी मध्य तक, और जनवरी मध्य के बाद आपका लो सीज़न शुरू हो जाता है जब तक बच्चों की छुट्टियां शुरू ना होती हैं, वो अर्ली मई, मिड मई तक. मिड मई से हाई सीज़न आपका शुरू हो जाता है वर्षा ऋतु तक, और जुलाई अगस्त से फिर अक्टूबर तक आपकी लो सीज़न चलती है। ये सीजनैलिटी एक चरित्र है नागर विमानन क्षेत्र का पूरे विश्व में। लो सीज़न में फेयर्स लो होते हैं क्योंकि यात्री कम होते हैं, हाई सीज़न में फेयर्स हाई होते हैं। इस सीजनैलिटी को देख के ही इसी के साथ जुड़ा हुआ होता है फेस्टिवल सीज़न, जुड़ा हुआ होता है वन ऑफ, जो उदाहरण आपने दिया वर्ल्ड कप मैच का। इसके लिए हम लोगों को केवल TMU टैरिफ मॉनिटरिंग यूनिट पर अपने आप को आधारित नहीं करना है। ऐसे इवेंट्स को देखते हुए कोशिश हमारी होनी चाहिए कि थोड़ी कैपेसिटी भी ऑगमेंटेशन हो। तो जैसे वर्ल्ड कप मैच की आपने बात की, तो करीब करीब हम लोगों ने 16 से 21 अतिरिक्त फ़्लाइट्स सभी शहरों से हमने डिप्लॉय की अहमदाबाद के लिए फाइनल मैच के लिए। जहाँ तक टैरिफ मॉनिटरिंग यूनिट का सवाल है, टैरिफ मॉनिटरिंग यूनिट 60 रूट्स का फेयर्स को रेखांकित करता है 4 या 5 श्रेणी पे। 31 डे फेयर, 14 डे फेयर, 7 डे फेयर एंड इमीडिएट फेयर। और आप ये देखोगे कि अगर आपने एडवांस बुकिंग किया तो आपको सबसे लोएस्ट फेयर मिलेगी, पर आपने जिस दिन यात्रा आप करना चाहते हो उस दिन अगर आपने यात्रा के लिए टिकट मांगा तो सबसे हाईएस्ट फेयर मिलती है। और ये मार्केट डायनामिक है। जो 60 रूट्स का हम लोग TMU मॉनिटर करती है, पिछले इस वर्ष के जून के माह में ये प्रश्न आपके द्वारा भी, आपके भाई बंधुओं के द्वारा भी और संसद में भी उठा था, क्योंकि इस बार जून के माह में 2 फैक्टर्स साथ में हो गई। एक हाई सीज़न का वातावरण था और दूसरा हमारा एक एयरलाइन दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण AOG हो गया, एयरक्राफ्ट ऑन ग्राउंड हो गया, तो डबल वैमी हो गई। और इसलिए उस समय में भी हमने जो करीब करीब 315 रूट्स थे उस एयरलाइन के, करीब 70 रूट्स पे दूसरे एयरलाइंस को हम लोग ने कैपेसिटी प्रदान कर दी थी। उसके बाद 5 जून को मैंने स्वतः बैठक एयरलाइंस के साथ ली थी और 5 जून के बाद 2 हफ्ते के अंदर फेयर्स पूर्ण रूप से रैशनलाइज हो चुके थे। आज भी हमारा TMU मॉनिटर करता है और उदाहरण के तौर पर अगर आप 1 डे फेयर को अगर आप देखेंगे तो 5 से 6 जून और आज 14 से 15 दिसंबर को अगर आप कंपेयर करो तो 20 से 80% गिरावट आज फेयर्स में आ चुकी है। कुछ ऐसे सेक्टर्स होते हैं जहां डिमांड बहुत हाई होता है, उदाहरण के तौर पर मुंबई दिल्ली या दिल्ली मुंबई, वहाँ फेयर्स जरूर 20-25% थोड़े बड़े हैं, लेकिन ज़्यादा करके अगर हम देखें सारे फेयर सिस्टम पर पूर्ण नियंत्रण होता है। जहाँ हम देखें कि कहीं भी किसी भी राउट पे ज़्यादा स्पाइक अगर आ गया हो तो TMU द्वारा इमीडिएटली एयरलाइन को सूचित किया जाता है और एयरलाइन स्वतः ही सेल्फ रेगुलेट करके उस फेयर पर नियंत्रण, अपने एल्गोरिथम में परिवर्तन लाके उस फेयर को नियंत्रण में लाता है। पर वर्तमान में फेयर्स नियंत्रण में है सीजनल फ्लक्चुएशन को रखते हुए।
265।
सर नमस्कार, समीर दीक्षित 18 हाउस है सर। मैं व्यवहारिक पहलू पे समझना चाहता हूँ सर, जो रिटेल स्पेस पर, कमर्शियल स्पेस पे आपने एक्शन लिया है सर, क्या दिल्ली एयरपोर्ट ऑपरेटर की तरफ से या रिटेल ओनर्स की तरफ से किसी तरीके का रेजिस्टेंस उनकी तरफ से आया, नहीं आया? दूसरा सर कि अगर इन्होंने जिस तरीके से ऑपरेट कर रहे थे तो प्राइवेट एयरपोर्ट क्या इनको ये एंक्रोचमेंट के दायरे में आ रहा था कि नहीं आ रहा था? और एक और सवाल सर कि 25 एयरपोर्ट आप 2025 तक लीज आउट करना चाहते हैं, उसका कोई टाइम फ्रेम अभी आपकी तरफ से टेंडर कब तक आउट होंगे?
देखिए, आपके पहले तो संसद में हमें केवल एक प्रश्न पूछने की अनुमति अध्यक्ष जी के द्वारा दिया जाता है, पर आपने एक प्रश्न में 3 प्रश्न पूछ लिए। आपके जो पहले 2 प्रश्न हैं उसका मैं जवाब में ये देना चाहता हूँ, जो हमें करना था हमने कर लिया। क्यों? क्योंकि हमारी जवाबदेही आपके प्रति है, हमारी जवाबदेही देश की जनता के प्रति है, हमारी जवाबदेही मेरे यात्री के प्रति है और उस जिम्मेदारी का निर्वाह करना मेरा धर्म बनता है। प्राथमिकता एयरपोर्ट की यात्रियों के लिए होनी चाहिए और ये हमने, मंत्रालय ने, बीकैस ने, सभी ने मिलकर ये रेखांकित कर दिया है सभी एयरपोर्ट्स को, चाहे वो एआई हो, चाहे वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर हो, चाहे वो जॉइंट वेंचर हो, चाहे जो भी हो। और आपका दूसरा प्रश्न था, तीसरा प्रश्न किस पे? हाँ, उस पे जब प्रगति होगी तो आपको सूचित किया जाएगा।
154.
हाँ,
सर मैं आमिर हूँ न्यूज़ नेशन से। मेरा सवाल सर
सॉरी
अयोध्या
आमिर, एक मिनट,
जी।
मैं केवल इनको, समीर को मैं थोड़ा करेक्ट करना चाहता हूँ। प्राइवेटाइजेशन नहीं है, मैंने संसद में भी कहा है, मैंने आप लोगों से भी कई बात की है, ये लीजिंग है। इट इज़ नॉट अ प्राइवेटाइजेशन। देयर इज़ अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन अ लीजिंग स्ट्रक्चर एंड अ प्राइवेटाइजेशन स्ट्रक्चर। In a privatization structure, your asset is gone forever. In a leasing structure, it is leased out to the prospective party for 30 years or 40 years or whatever the period is. And all improvements that the party makes on that particular asset, at the end of that period, based on a formula, it reverts back to you. So it is a leasing and not a privatization. Sorry.
सर आमिर न्यूज़ नेशन से। सर पहला सवाल मेरा ये है कि अयोध्या के एयरपोर्ट को लेकर के क्या अभी अपडेट है, क्योंकि काफ़ी एयरलाइंस उस पर इंटरेस्ट भी दिखा रही हैं। बताया जा रहा है कि
देखिए, आप चिंता ना करें, अगले 3 माह में केवल अयोध्या नहीं, सूरत एयरपोर्ट, अयोध्या एयरपोर्ट, तिरुचिरापल्ली एयरपोर्ट, ग्वालियर का एयरपोर्ट, जबलपुर का